Episode number 15.
Is that a milestone?
I mean, it could be for one more than 14. I don't think it is. 15. They don't really celebrate 15s in anything. You can do like 25s, 50s,
Yeah,
100s. I don't know. It's a milestone for today. Man, I got to pick up where we left off in the previous episode because the last one was going a little bit, I won't say too long, but I think it's maybe we take the idea and just, you let it take what it takes. You sink into it because, I was posting some stuff on social media earlier this week, and I just thought, my goodness, there's so much noise. And what we've kind of, as society, gone to is like quick sound bites, super fast stuff that you can consume. It's like we're doing a lot of snacking. I mean, obviously, like physically, this is going to be offensive. Physically, we're doing a lot of snacking. People have gained a lot more weight than they did even when I was in high school and in college. Like, we're just not healthy physically. We snack all the time. We don't sit down and eat healthy meals. And I think that's also true on the intellectual, mental, emotional side. We don't prefer depth and nutrition. We prefer snacks, content snacks. And there's got to be some moment where you go, okay, like I got to move beyond the snack and I got to go deeper. Like in the Bible, we see this drive that says you still basically got to drink milk. You can't eat the meat. Or to say it another way, you're just a little snacker. Yeah. So, going into something and thinking, all right, that episode I thought would go 35 minutes, the whole thing, and then it goes 40 or not even halfway through. Well, just let it be what it is. Sometimes maybe you just need to sink into the slow. I was praying through some stuff a couple weeks ago, and this phrase kept coming to me. I was dealing with some stuff personally, and what it came to is like I really needed to slow down on some stuff because here's the phrase: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Make sense?
Go further.
Well, slow, we want to just go quick. Boom, 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 boom. Get through this episode, get through that content, go, flip the pages, go. I mean, I got a checklist in here of all the stuff I'm trying to teach. And the hesitancy is, man, like maybe you need to rush through. But when you slow down, that makes things a lot smoother and less abrupt. And when things are smoother, they move quicker. I mean, one of the ways it hit me recently is I've been working with a team about this GY6 project. That was the subject of this whole episode previous in this episode. This is kind of the, take two on that. Working with a team to roll out some things related to this, related to a 5K run, related to some workshops, related to some small groups, all kinds of things. We're launching this out in multiple cities. And working with that team has made things slow because we meet every 2 weeks. Some of us knew each other beforehand, but not all of us did. And we've really gotten to know each other over the process. That is slow. Sitting down and typing out, hey, we're going to meet, and here's what we're going to discuss, and look at this before we get together for the meeting. That is slow. It would be faster, in my mind, to just bang it out and do it by myself. But we went slow. But the slow and the interaction and being at the table, and we moved our meetings. One of the first things we did is we moved our meetings out of a boardroom and we moved them into a restaurant and into houses and coffee shops and those sorts of things just to change the environment. And we got rid of Robert's Rules of Order and some of those logistics, and it became way more relational, and going slower made it a lot smoother. Because now the relationships have taken over, and as a result of that, now we're making very, very quick progress, faster and more than we could have achieved had I just done it myself. Does that make sense? Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. If you're driving down the road, man, you can get there quicker. You just keep changing lanes and going around everybody and boop, 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 pass. And then pretty soon your wife's going to do what my wife does. She's going to tap you and go, man, you are about to give me a heart attack over here. You are sending my nervous system into overdrive because you're not driving very smooth. You're going fast, but you think about it. Okay, again, slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. So I think on the podcast, that's really maybe where we've landed is, okay, let it take the time it takes. You don't have to rush through. Go slow, sink it deep, cover the stuff, talk through it, and that's it, We don't have to churn out a bunch of content. Like, we're not trying to fill up a social media reel. So probably it takes a longer time to do it too, because I do these long-winded intros that are unscripted, and then you get to, I got the notebook here, I'm scripted, I got my notes, so if I follow along. All right, so in the previous episode, I was talking about the GY6 project, and I said this, I'm going to catch you up to speed. If you have not listened to that, you can finish this. It's not like we got to build on that to get to this, but I said there were really two streams that were leading to this GY6 project. One of them was personal. I talked about that in the previous and just kind of hit the highlights. The next one was professional. So let me talk about the professional stream today, and then I'll talk a little bit about the project if we get to it. Years ago, when I was going through all that stuff that was on the personal side, the personal struggle that started, 2014, 2015 really kicked up. I mean, it ends up in legal separation papers being served to me in 2018 and ultimately divorce in 2019. During that season, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? I was working inside the house, and I really needed to find something to do outside of the house where I was working or adding value, not just working in that network marketing home-based business. You go through a legal separation and you go through a divorce, you feel so much shame because you in your mind have made this covenant that's for forever before God and your family and your best friends. And there's such a stigma, especially in the church or when you're involved in ministry, that you just, what in the world? Nobody walks the aisle and says, I do, thinking that there's going to be a point where there's going to be a don't. Everybody says for richer or poor, thinking it's always going to be richer, not poorer. Everybody says for better or worse, thinking it's always going to be better, not worse. And everybody says and agrees, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder, or whatever fancy phrase the pastor says. Usually that's the one, asunder.
It just feels weird.
Yeah. So that tension, it hits. And one of the things, some guys I was walking through with that during that season, they said, you work outside of the home. You work out of your home, not outside the four walls of the home. Everything you're doing, let me say it another way, is from the house. Your office is in your house. It would probably help if you did something outside of the house. And so at the time, I had a friend that was, 20 years older than me, still is 20 years older than me. And he had started a nonprofit. Crosswinds Foundation is the name of it, years ago, back in 2008. So at the time, this is 2018, man, that organization was at that time a decade old. And I'd gotten to know him years earlier. In fact, I met him when I was preaching at a church in a warehouse downtown on Sunday evenings, mainly to a group of 20-somethings. Again, on Sunday nights. And it was a little weird because there was a rock band. That sounds like every day now, but that was not the case back then. We were meeting in a warehouse. That sounds okay now, but back then that was not the case. It was on Sunday nights, no Sunday morning service. It was literally on Sunday nights. It was dark inside. We had stage lights. We did not have a fog machine. I mean, it was dark just so people could have some privacy. There were a lot of candles and ambiance everywhere, so that seemed a little weird. It was a phenomenal experience. We would have parents of these 20-somethings that would show up every now and then because their kids, when they got out of high school, had quit going to church. And in college, they definitely didn't go to church. And then they get into their 20s, some of them early 30s. There weren't many 30-year-olds then. They would boomerang back to a church, one like we were meeting on Sunday nights. And then the parents' first question would be, like, is that a church or is that a cult? Like, that was probably the number one question we got. Like, is this a cult? And it was okay. I mean, we invited the question. We had a strong statement of faith on our website. And this was back, it took forever to load that website. This was back when websites were first getting started. I mean, this was the year 2000. Okay, so it seems like to me, every other week, maybe even more than that, but I would meet somebody every other week. There'd be a parent that was in the room. And of course, I'm walking around beforehand, just kind of meeting people, talking to them. We didn't have a green room or, the pastor coming from backstage or, none of that. In fact, in the warehouse, most of the seating initially was couches that people gave us that we sat in there. Very quickly, we learned that that's incredibly inefficient because they take up so much space. But you come in there, it's kind of a different vibe anyway. And I would meet the parents, and they would say something like, yeah, I was just kind of here to check it out. And I was always thrilled. And then they would find out very quickly that it was a very liberal, free-looking container, but the substance was probably more conservative than where they were. I was just teaching, for the most part, straight through books of the Bible. 45, 50-minute sermons. So you think the podcast goes along sometimes. I mean, this was, with a live group of 20-somethings, sometimes going 50 minutes or an hour. So these parents would come, and one time I remember getting a call from this guy, his name's Bob, that started Crosswinds Foundation. It's probably 2001, 2002. At the time, he was not working for Crosswinds. He hadn't started it yet. He was working for a cult watch group. And a concerned parent had called the cult watch group. And so he's like, I don't know. Like, I think I know this guy's dad. I'll check into it. So I got a phone call, at the office, or an email. I don't remember the exact form of communication at the time, but reached back out, and was actually honored to go sit down and, here's what we're doing. And this, I thought, like, man, this is the greatest thing in the world. A cult watch group called. And so at that point, I'd gotten to know this guy. He was very wise, very well thought out, extremely well read. And at some point, he left the cult watch group, and by the way, he would go into big churches and teach, the certainty of Christianity and how Christianity's true, as opposed to other cults or not other cults, but as opposed to cults and false belief systems. And very well respected. He left that and he started Crosswinds Foundation for Faith and Culture with the idea of not just debating doctrine, but talking about relevant cultural concerns in the space where believers could interact with non-believers, not just Christians talking about our doctrine versus theirs. So very, very beautiful idea. And one of the first projects that he decided to do, 2008, was a film, realizing that film is one of the places where the most important conversations take place. Well, the question comes up, what is the first film, documentary type of project that we're going to talk about and do that's related to a current cultural issue? And eventually what they decided was to do a film on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And they did it. They named it Invisible Scars. Now, back then, go back to, 2009-ish when they start working on that film. I think it came out in 2011. And it's still, I mean, it stands up the test of time. So many films you look at, I believe it was 11 or maybe 11, they started shooting on it. I'll put it down in the show notes, the link to their website where you can go grab it. So many films, within 5-6 years, they seem dated or they seem expired. When you watch this film, I was watching it several years ago, live. I was when I was working for the organization, we were showing it at Scott Air Force Base up in the St. Louis area. One day we were showing a film, and then the next day I was training, all the chaplains in the area, 50 of them or so, on some of the resources we'd put together on post-traumatic stress and moral injury. And I'm sitting there watching the film on the big screen. I'd seen it multiple times, but it's like, man, it's extremely well done. And even though the filmographers on that team have gotten so much better, that's still an incredible work. And it was one of the first that was breaking into that space. Okay, so that's what this guy started. And I'd been in relationship with him and sought advice from him multiple times through my journey of ministry and starting nonprofits and doing other work, going back to that time when he cult watched me, and he was so gracious when when we met up. I think I drove out to his office and it was easy. It was all at ease. It was not awkward or anything, but that's kind of where that started. And he had over time, 2014, 2015, 16, asked me multiple times, hey, you ought to come and do some work with this. Maybe you could be adjunct faculty for the ministry. Yeah, we never really defined what that would look like, but those were all just ideas that were kicked around. In fact, early on, this is some of the connection that was there early on. They were giving those films. They made a second film on moral injury called Honoring the Code. And when they did that, they were giving away those films. The original plan was to sell the films on DVD. Okay, so again, go back to, the early teens of the 2000s. Everybody was doing DVDs. That was it. Netflix wasn't big. I don't even know that Netflix had even come out yet. Or at the time, you could buy the DVDs or rent the DVDs through the mail. They'd send you one, send them back. Everybody's going to Redbox. Everybody's going to Blockbuster. And so they were originally going to sell these DVDs to fund the next films. And once they saw the stories and saw how impactful it could be, they pivoted that business model and said, okay, we're going to give it away. And people would request DVDs and they would ship them, over 100,000 of them, through the mail. Well, at some point, we're having those conversations about, hey, look, bro, it's 2017. You need to be streaming this stuff. I mean, originally, I set it up on one of my web pages and it was like, yeah, man, stream it. I'll direct people to your site and stream it. So there had been that kind of connection. And when I'm looking for an alternative to working in my house, going through it's a crisis season. One of the things on the table, one of the options was literally go work at Starbucks for one of the guys that used to live right down the street from me. He's like, I'll hire you. Go work at Starbucks. And it seemed like, man, I would probably like that. It would just be automatic, just do it, occupy my time, occupy my head, get out of my own way, fill the days, be out of the house. And I remember having a conversation with Bob during that same season. And basically what we came up with was, hey, why don't you just come work at Crosswinds and I'll pay you whatever you would be making at Starbucks. I thought, well, that would be better. And it would be more flexible. And we've been talking about, the possibility of doing that for a while. And, if I do that, one of the first projects I do could be writing grants because I used to do that a lot. And so I could write some grants based on some of the projects that we want to do based on these films that you've created. The films existed before I got there. We could do some project. We'd dialogued at that point about maybe putting together a curriculum that would help people that watched the films and identified with post-traumatic stress or moral injury. They saw themselves in the stories of the people in the film, the documentaries. How do they now walk out the healing process of that? What next? So, well, we could write a grant, and as soon as we had some grants coming in, we could write the grant to create that, and then we could create it together. And so, that's what we did. 2018, middle of 2018, I went and began working for Crosswinds Foundation for Faith and Culture with the non-job description task, but it was very clear what I was going to do was write grants while we're developing the idea for this book, and then we're going to create the book, and hopefully grants come in, and then you can do this full time. So I was working for about $1,000 a month, again, getting paid what and there were months where he paid me right out of his pocket. The ministry didn't have it. It was an incredible lifeboat during that time. And we ended up writing that book and then another, and in time produced, including some of the leader guides, I think it was a total of 6 books there, including the leader guides and also a Bible study out of that professional opportunity. In fact, I worked there all the way up until the beginning of this past year, with the exception of maybe a 2 to 3 month break in there when I was working on some other opportunities and scheduling and timing, and everything just didn't permit. So when you're talking about the GY6 thing and you go, okay, where did it come from? Again, because this is part 2 of that previous talk. You got the professional stream that I just told you about, and you're syncing that up with, dealing with PTSD, moral injury in military space. So to be clear, that's what it was. And then you've also got kind of that personal side where Crosswinds is dealing with military PTSD, military-related moral injury. And then on the personal side, we've talked about this in other episodes, publishing, teaching, training, learned about social media, did some of the projects where we were learning and growing more. And then I go on my own deep dive of like, man, I got some issues that I've got to deal with. And just when you think you're healing them, boom, the bottom falls out and you go even deeper on some of that. All of those things start converging, and you start dialoguing about, all right, what's one of the big things that I'm here to do? And I think it's really to help people walk through the pain, not walk away from it, but move through the pain with the presence of God. So move through the pain with the presence and into their purpose. And so often both of those things, pain points, I don't think you'll find your full purpose apart from the presence of God with you, because He's the one that created you and gifted you and wired you up to do something in this world that uniquely only you can do. So again, it's moving through the pain points with the presence into the purpose. And a lot of times that purpose is connected to the pain points, because now you're qualified in some sense based on what would have disqualified you to help people in a way that uniquely you know how to do. January of 2024, to kind of bring it into, man, what's our time clock right there? Is this going to have to go to part 3?
You're at 24. You're good.
All right, well, we're not going to rush it. We'll just land it. January 2024, I get a call from the local American Legion post 9/11, meets at Hoover Tactical currently, looking at making some transitions. And they want me to come in there and talk about those two, post-traumatic stress and moral injury. We'll define them in a whole nother episode. Like, we're not going to do that right now. And so I get there and have the conversation. I think they gave me 20 minutes to talk. I think. So, they do all their business and they make some announcements about veteran-related issues and post-related concerns. And then, most often they have a guest speaker. I was the speaker that day. And so I'm supposed to dialogue about post-traumatic stress and moral injury and what's the difference. And so I give them a couple examples and I tell them, basically in succinct language. And again, we'll do another episode where we go into all of this long form. I say, well, post-traumatic stress is really a response to external concerns. You get triggered is the word because something in the environment puts you on hyper alert and then you either fight or flight it. One of the crosswind stories early on, one of the guys that was on the board, Don Mallon, was a chaplain over in the Middle East. When Bob asked Don what post-traumatic stress was like, Don, after serving a couple tours, he said, well, let me put it like this. It took me about 2 years after being over here stateside to realize that when it thundered outside, I wasn't under mortar fire. And that's kind of what it's like. You get triggered where you wrongly read a present circumstance in light of past experience. Post-traumatic stress. Moral injury is a little bit different because moral injury is based on something internal. The easiest way to say it is like this. You grow up your entire life with this moral code, this compass of what's right and what's wrong. And if you do the right thing, you generally will feel okay. If you do the wrong thing, that's where guilt and shame enter in. But moral injury can be a little bit more complex than that. Sometimes it can occur, like the book of James says, to the one who knows to do good and does not do it, it is sin. So you might feel guilty because of a good thing that you failed to do. All right, so put that in military context. You're raised your entire life, you should not kill, and then you get in the line of duty, and you have to pull the trigger in order to protect and to save lives. And it's necessary. No matter how justified it was, you still feel this hole. Or what about times when you could save somebody, but you're ordered to stand down? And you're like, Or there's probably 9-10 different core ways it could occur. In fact, I'll put a link down in the show notes where you can go watch this video where it walks you through. Or what about if somebody does something to you and you're the victim? So every person that I've talked to that was a victim of rape felt guilt or shame, one or the other, sometimes both. And you want to say, but wait, hold on. You were the victim. You didn't do anything wrong. And they may even still say, I know, but I still feel what I feel. It's a moral, it's a wound on the spirit. Right? And so I'm there talking to this group. And again, we'll do a whole nother episode. If you want to take a deeper dive, there's a link down in the show notes where you can go watch the video between the difference. And we'll do a whole nother episode where we talk through it and really go into it. Because I think this moral injury one affects far more people than even post-traumatic stress. And we just don't talk about either one of them, especially in church, Christian circles. We just, hey, have faith and pray and push through. And sometimes that's not enough. So we're dialoguing there. I've got 20 minutes, and I'm going to finish in 15 on purpose so that they've got time to ask questions. And all of a sudden, what's going on is some of these guys start popping each other. Like, and they start going, hey, that's the one that I've got. Like, I don't have the post-traumatic stress. Like, they knew something was going on in them, but post-traumatic stress didn't fit the bill. But there was something deeper that was internal. Like if post-traumatic stress comes out as this external response, fight or flight to something outside of you, moral injuries, guilt or shame, angst, something you're carrying inside that's deeper and hidden, and you still feel it, and it's almost overbearing because you can't explain it. And so they start talking back to me and asking questions. This is a room with a lot of people. And so I look back at the post commander behind me, because he's sitting kind of behind the, like, quote, stage area. And I'm like, hey, man, I know this building's about to close. He's like, no, keep on going. And so I keep talking, and they ask more questions. And then, afterwards I get invited to go to dinner, and we talk about it more at the dinner. And it becomes this moment where, there are these things, I've said this before, in life where you realize, oh man, I'm in a moment that's this is a big deal. Like, I'm going to remember this. Like, this is a moment. And then there are other things where you don't realize while you're doing it that's a moment, but you look back in the rearview mirror later and you're like, oh, that was pretty significant. This was one of those things where later on you kind of look back and go, oh, that was kind of a weighty, significant thing. So I leave those guys, and a couple weeks later, I'm up with the Crosswinds team in Middleton, Ohio. There is a conference for first responders, and it's dealing with the topic of post-traumatic stress and, to some degree, moral injury. And our team has been invited up there to talk about moral injury. Bob goes in to take the breakout session and do the talk. I stay out, and while I'm out in kind of in what would be the vendor hall area, their guy that's doing all the media, so like he would be kind of the John Walden of the conference. He pulls me aside. He's got a camera. He was he wasn't just a radio guy, like he's camera guy, and he's live streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. And he says, "Hey, can I interview you on our live stream about PTSD and moral injury?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we go sit down in the chairs, and we're talking right there on the live stream, and pretty quick it becomes apparent that this group of people has no idea what they're talking about. Now, they're all aware.
Wow.
They're all aware that something is going on inside of them.
Yeah.
But instantly, he asked me, he says something like this. He says, so PTSD, that's when it's a really big deal. So I guess this is how he's saying it. I guess it's like PTS is when it's small and it's just for a little thing. But then if it happens over time, like that's when it turns into PTSD. And I was like, no, that's not. So I'm, trying to, now I'm on the live stream. So I'm like, oh man. And I'm thinking back to like one of the lessons my dad taught me growing up, and it's still, try to go by it, is if somebody puts themselves in a corner, like give them a gracious way out of the corner. So even if they intentionally, defiantly went into it, which he did not. So I'm like, I'm not going to correct or embarrass him on the live stream. So we just kind of talked through it, and no, a lot of people refer to PTS because it's not diagnosis. A lot of people use other acronyms. Like a couple years ago, a guy was running for president, and he was saying he had PTSS, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Sometimes people use PTS, little lowercase d, but they're all really talking about the same thing, is post-traumatic stress. And the truth is, most of us aren't at the level that's diagnosable. That's a really high bar. That's when the American Psychological Association calls it, when you get diagnosed, it's PTSD is the diagnosis. So I always just use the whole acronym, PTSD, because people know what you're talking about with that. But the reality is, most of us wouldn't be like, let's just call it a 10 out of 10, where you could be diagnosable. Some of us might be a 5, a 7, an 8. But you look at that and go, man, even if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10, would you benefit from some emotional help even if you're not diagnosable? And the truth is, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not diagnosable for being clinically obese, but I would still benefit from hitting the treadmill, hitting the street, doing some weight training, watching what I eat. And that's the case with most people. I mean, didn't we start off talking about snacking earlier? Yeah, most people would. And so when you start talking about emotional issues like that, man, most of us wrongly read present situations in light of past pain points. And so we would all benefit from some help in that area. And so, we kept on talking. We pivot to moral injury. Now, this, again, is on the live stream. And he says, so moral injury, that's like when your conscience is hurt. And I'm like, yes. And he says, and that's when you need to forgive someone. And I'm like, that might be part of it. And that's a great insight, but it goes even farther. Most of the time, you're the one that feels you need to be forgiven. Because whereas post-traumatic stress is a soul wound, moral injury, for the most part, is a spiritual wound. You feel like you're, at the extreme version, worthless or less than, that you've not matched up to the image of God that you were created to carry. And the more you get wounded in that area, man, it's almost like you need people to see you and to call out the best of you and say, you're beloved, you're still chosen, you're forgiven, there's no shame, there's no guilt, you're not alone, I see you, and then almost verbally restore you. And so we dialogue through that. I'm leaving that meeting, that event. I remember being in the car, we're driving back, and said, all right, when I get back, we've written all this other curriculum, but we did not have this component. When I get back, I'm going to write a simple book that's going to, based on the conversation with the American Legion, and then based on my interaction with that guy at the live stream, plus all the others at that conference that really thought something's going on, but they did not understand and have the language. I'm going to write a small book that talks through the importance of not just bodily health, but now soul and spiritual health, parts of total wholeness. My friend Mike, that I've been interacting with, he used to train Navy SEALs. Now he trains Green Berets down at 7th Group in Niceville. He's the strength conditioning coach. He has this ministry he calls Holos. And so we've got a lot of overlap and talk through and partner together on some things. Holos, total health, body, soul, and spirit. So talk to people in this book about the total package of all of that, but then break it down. Okay, let's talk about soul health. What is post-traumatic stress? How are most of us affected? How do you heal it? Okay, and then let's talk about what is moral injury. How does it affect us? How do you heal it? And then let's put some real stories in there, because this version of the book's designed for veterans, first responders. Kind of we're calling it the hero book. So let's get some stories from real people that faced the issue in each of those chapters. So there's like 40 stories in the book. And show how somebody else dealt with it. And then give people practical steps and ways to move forward. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's the GY6 project. Here's what it means. GY6 is a phrase that goes way back to World War I. Now imagine the airplanes then. You don't really have radar, sonar. You don't have, nothing fancy schmancy. You have a go-kart with a gun that has wings that will fly. Very rudimentary. You don't even have rear view mirrors. So you can see ahead of you. You can see 12 o'clock. You can see to your left. That would be 9 o'clock. You can see to your right. That would be 3 o'clock. What you cannot see is behind you. That's 6 o'clock. But other pilots could, and so what they would effectively say is, I've got your 6. While you're up here, I'm behind you. I can see you. Nothing's going to happen to you as long as I'm here. I've got your 6. Go ahead. Now, that mantra has carried over, and so when you hear people go, I got your 6, like that's what they mean. And so it's carried over. You'll hear firefighters say it. You'll hear police officers say it. Sometimes you'll see it on a TV show in the proper context. They'll say it. Military personnel use it. My friend Mike, who trains SEALs and Green Berets, they'll say that. Some of the guys that are involved with his ministry down there that I get the opportunity to work with, some of them are Air Force guys, some of them are Green Berets, some of them are former Army. Like they'll use that same phrase occasionally in that context, and they'll even use it in real life, like just in normal everyday. What it means is, hey, I've got your back. I'm looking out for you. And so that's what that resource is, GY6. That's the latest project. And that's one like, man, I'm excited to walk that one out for a long season. A couple calls to action for you. All right, so if you want to know how you can help or how you can get involved, you can get an advanced copy of the book. The version that we're going to start using is going to be a moleskin, like hardback. There's pictures of it on the website. But if you want to get an advanced copy and start reading it, you can take advantage of that and just follow the link down in the show notes. If you want to attend a workshop, we're about to roll out some workshops and start training people in this because, again, we're going to roll it out. The American Legion here local, District 21. So that's not just the post that I showed up to that night, where I'm actually a member at that post, but the whole district, like they're getting behind it and they're helping platform it. And so many of these people are people of faith. In fact, I'm meeting with one of them today that are rolling it out through their churches, through other groups, because they really see it's not just soul health, it's also spiritual health. It's not just the post-traumatic stress. More of us are probably impacted by that moral injury, guilt, shame, conscience, and really society has no answer for it. But we do. And so you want to attend a workshop, we're doing a 5K run that's coming out, in May. And if we can get Amber to slow down inventing new shirts of the week for her, for your school, then we can get some shirts cranked up. But, May the 2nd, right around there, we're doing a run. So there's all kinds of things that are rolling out. I'll put some opportunities down there in the show notes for you because that's really consistently a moving target that's really being built while we're flying the plane right now with a group of people because we've been moving slow, which is smooth, and which is fast. All right, so here's the prayer as we close it out. How many minutes in are we?
42.
Man, so we thought we'd do one 35-minute episode and then move on, and we did 2 40-minuters. Oh, well. Hey, you're listening? Thank you. My prayer is the Lord would bless you, keep you, be gracious to you, shine His favor on you, and may you, as we just talked about last episode, may you move through the pain with the presence into your purpose. Grace and peace. We'll talk soon.